How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I'm going to review this thing, the Chevrolet Apache that they've recently added. Yeah, send it through the course and see how it does. Sadly, it's only available in the store. You can't get it free as part of the season pass or anything, which we'll get into that later. I've already sort of made a video addressing that, but yeah, it is what it is. I'm just going to review it as it is in the game. As for the four engines, you go down to the bottom and the engine is B+ on the power. It's barely halfway. And when you read the description, it says raw, unadulterated power and bring spare gas. Yeah, definitely bring spare gas, but yeah, don't hold your breath for raw, unadulterated power because it's just not really there at the minute. As for the gearboxes, I'm going to use both of them throughout the night, the Freeway and SnowRunner. It has no raised suspension. And then as for the tyres, there's not a whole lot of selection, but you've got the chained, the muds, there's a set of off-roads and a few all-terrains. I do actually prefer the muds on this one. They're kind of like giant versions of the loaf muds, but overall I've been testing both and I do think the muds have got the edge. As for winches, I've added the advanced scout, so it's the scout options. You can have an autonomous one, but I'm going for the advanced. Both the roof racks, the one that goes in the pickup bed is alright, but the actual roof rack seems to slow down the characteristics of the vehicle again, like a lot of the roof racks do on a lot of the trucks. The snorkel, I'll put the tallest one on, but we'll get into that later. You don't really need it if I'm honest. As for the rear bumpers, to be honest, I'm sticking with the colour-coded stock ones because mainly they're colour-coded and they look pretty good. They also sit higher. As for rooftop add-ons, I've gone for those fog lights. There's a couple of different options, but I think those just 4 round lamps look pretty cool. Yeah, pop some horns on there, feeling rich. Yeah, front bumpers again, as you can see, the colour-coded one actually sits nice and high and tucks in. All the other ones are kind of they either stick out more or sit lower down and all sorts. So yeah, they're the ones I'm choosing. There's only one set of rims, at least when I've got the muds on anyway. There is that custom paint job they've added that's kind of, yeah, looks like it's tore through and there's a flag underneath. I actually like all of the colours really, or most of them. The brightness, or if they just, I don't know, stand out well on this truck, but even all these individual ones, the yellow looks cool, the blue looks cool, even that pink and purple looks pretty cool. Just nice and bright. I quite like the vibrant colours on this game at the minute. That orange one as well looks pretty good, obviously two-tone orange and white. I'll be mixing and matching all the colours throughout the night, if I'm honest. I've been choosing, going back and forth through them. Just quickly, nodding dog and an ace of spades and a sticker, but nothing too special. I'm not too fussed about them. Yeah, I'll take it outside and have a look. As far as looks go, I actually think it does look pretty damn cool. Not just because of the 6-wheel drive thing. I just like the look of these sort of pickups. I've always liked these sort of pickups, so yeah, to me, it's definitely looks-wise, it gets a thumbs up. Looking around in the cab, looks pretty standard issue as I'd expect. The mirror's very small, not that I really care, because I can see out the back, I can see the garage door and everything. Again, with that mirror, it's pretty tiny, but I can stick my head out, I can see the edges of my tyres, I can see the full garage door behind me, so I know what my wheels are up to and all that. That's about all I could ask for, really. The horn is terrible. Yeah, the horn's shocking. I do really like the speedo, by the way. Somebody mentioned that the other day. I was supposed to mention it in the first video and I forgot because I was rambling. But yeah, I do think that looks the interior does look pretty cool. There is no rev counter, so I'm just giving it some licks at the minute. It sounds pretty good. I wish it went like it sounded, but sadly it doesn't. The next thing with this, or the issue really, is it's got no trailers. And that, to be honest, I'm not really too sure why they did that with this truck, because it's not that fast or anything. Yeah, I don't think adding if this thing could have trailers, it would break or change the game in any way whatsoever. It'd be pretty cool if it had, say, even the Scout trailers, because you could take the radar trailer, or then you can take the Scout fuel trailer on top of the roof racks, and you are kind of more of a mini maintenance trailer setup then. But yeah, without either of them, it doesn't feel like it's got enough power and weight to it to go motoring along, and you can't have trailers, so there's very little use for it in the game, really. Yeah, I don't really see where I'm going to use it much over a lot of other stuff, because it struggles through stuff like mud and snow. It just goes it has a default speed of 5 miles an hour, if that, when you get into this sort of stuff. I mean, it still claws through there okay, all things considered. Yeah, I am using the freeway gearbox at the minute. I'll be mixing and matching throughout the night, but I think it's got benefits for both. because this thing hasn't got a hell of a lot of power, I don't think the Scout gearbox, or the Scout gearboxes, help transfer the engine power to the ground as well. Like, I personally prefer the high range gearbox and the off-road, like the truck versions, basically. So you can see as I get to the top of that hill, I hit that bit of mud, and it's not particularly deep, it's probably not even up to the rims on the alloys, but it just absolutely, practically stops the thing dead, and yeah, you just expect a bit more really, especially as they're charging money for it. And going down here, hitting this tree, I knew it wouldn't, but yeah, I was giving it a go. It took a bit of engine damage, not too bad really, all things considered. I mean, yeah, if they're going to charge money for it, it should be up to like a certain point, you would think. And I've been reading through yesterday's comments, because obviously I made a video regarding like microtransaction and all that stuff. I've been reading through the comments, but I couldn't get sleep last night, so I kind of fell asleep earlier. So yeah, I need to catch up on them. But I've been reading through them and stuff. There's a few. I mean, the thing is, when they add something like this, they kind of set themselves up. Everyone's going to have an opinion on it, and to a degree, I certainly didn't know this was being added as like paid for DLC. I thought it was just going to be part of the yeah, the season pass, and I think a lot of people did. So they've already kind of opened themselves up to that kind of thing, like criticism. It sort of gets everyone in. I did read a few comments. Someone said to me, yeah, if this thing was pay to win, I'd then complain it's pay to win. To be honest, with all due respect, I don't think they watched or listened to either of my videos, because I spent a large portion of both videos saying that basically this should be pay to win, because it's player versus environment, not player versus player, so there's nothing to win against, there's nobody that I'm going to gain an advantage over. Like, if they are going to charge money for it, it'd be nice if it yeah, just matched better. Like I said, with the low engine power, it's not as bad for people on PC, because they can just mod it, whereas whatever we get on console, we're just stuck with it at the minute until they add mods, which I wish they would hurry up and add mods. I kind of want them more than the next DLC, really, because that just kind of opens up all kinds of options for tweaking and adjusting the trucks. And I do kind of find, like, even when you look with the all the different mods that people have made, as far like regarding engine power in this game, that they tend to put stuff on the weak side. Is like, has anyone actually made a mod where they make a truck even weaker? Like, generally speaking, everybody, and they're not going mad and making it some like super truck, but everyone's just tweaking like and upping the, you know, the engine power and bits like this on trucks, because they just seem a little bit, yeah, slow in this game, like unrealistically slow really. I think this truck would be able to go more than 2 miles an hour through, you know, 3 or 4 inches of mud. I mean, going across that Black River crossing, it's, yeah, very sluggish. I'm not to say it gets stuck a lot or anything, it will get there, but it's just very slow, and it doesn't really, yeah, it doesn't excite me that much, if I'm honest. Like, especially if they're going to not give it any trailers, it kind of, you almost think, like, what's the purpose of it in the game? Because if I can't run trailers, it'd be nice then if it was just, not to say rapid, but it'd be nice if it could fly around a bit. Like, I don't need it to tow trailers really. It'd be cool if it could, but I don't need that to be the case, because I've got 40, 50 other trucks that I can do that. So if you're not going to add it for like in-game usability, it'd be nice if they kind of made it more, yeah, a bit more fun, a bit more crazy. Like I said, especially that there is 4 engine options, there's no reason to make the best engine half power and then all the others just even less than that. So you get situations like this where just to do a reverse 90-degree turn through the snow takes 5 or 10 seconds. And yeah, there's only so long on this game that if you get to like a 100-foot section of mud or snow, and you know it's going to take you 3 minutes to drive across there, there's only so many times that's enjoyable before you'll just go, well, I won't bring this truck, I'll just go and bring another one that can do exactly the same thing, but faster, better, more urgently, more power, all the rest of it. As for climbing over the barriers though, it's not got much of a nose on it or anything, and with those colour-coded bumpers, they kind of pretty nicely tucked in, they sit pretty high, so yeah, getting over the barriers was mostly alright. Those fuel tanks in the middle though do sit a little bit low, but at least because it is 6-wheel drive, like the wheel base or whatever, the distance between the front and the middle axle is not a lot, so overall it does get over quite a lot of stuff. It's on the better side of not being able to beach it, but they definitely, especially that each fuel tank's got like a little step on it, yeah, it doesn't really help. But you see, cutting across here, I mean, it's not particularly, I wouldn't say struggling, all things considered. Like, even pushing through this tree, I do think this vehicle needs a bit more weight to it. But yeah, it actually is like cutting through there and stuff, but it's just, again, it's like, I don't want to go 1 mile an hour or whatever through the snow. Like, there's loads of other stuff that I can just get on with my game, and the quicker you can go, it's like the more game you can absorb. I mean, somebody as well said in the comments, like, you know, they're not going to add any fast stuff in this. Like, they're basically, you know, just saying, oh, it's not a racing game, and it's like, I don't really see that as a good valid argument, though, because Grand Theft Auto 5 isn't a taxi game, but I can do taxi missions if I want, and just all sorts. It's like, if you're going to provide like a physics sandbox game, yeah, you want more toys, more options. Like, if I was selling you a box of toys, one box has one toy in, and the other box has 50 toys in, including the same toy as the box that has one toy, you're going to go for the box full of toys. And if you're going to have, yeah, this physics terrain, like this sandbox to mess around on, why wouldn't you, like, give all options, all areas of that sandbox in terms of, like, the speed, physics, weight characteristics, all the rest of it? Yeah, whoever's, like, somebody who makes this game, as I said yesterday, is, like, obsessed with going really slow, which is good, but at the same time, I still think, yeah, I think you need to cater to, like, all aspects. Again, I mean, using Grand Theft Auto 5 as an example, sometimes when you go and get a police chase and everything, you're in a normal vehicle, and by the time you get up to 5 stars or whatever, your vehicle's about dead, you're about dead. Every now and then you want to go, fuck it, I'm jumping in a tank, I'm smashing into all the cops, I'm blowing everyone up, I'm shooting the helicopters out of the sky. I want it to be in my favour sometimes, not all the time, but every now and then you just want to have a laugh. And this would have been a good truck if it did nothing else. Like, you know, it couldn't tow trailers, but it was just a little bit mental on the terrain. It'd be pretty funny, whereas, yeah, I just don't think there's a lot of purpose for it. It did manage to jump that wall. Took a little bit of winching. You could see where I kind of balanced it on the wall. I went a little bit too far with the last winch hoovering. But yeah, it was balancing roughly on the fuel tanks, so it's kind of more weighted at the front than the back, and I think really the back could do with a bit more weight to it. Because I think on this game, especially that this is like 6-wheeled, it's obviously spreading the weight out between more wheels, so there's not as much pushing down, and in this game, weight definitely makes like a pretty big difference, really. Like stuff like the P16, even though that's only rear-wheel drive, that absolutely grips like a beast everywhere. The P16 can go places you wouldn't expect it to go, especially if you get used to these sort of characteristics, that it's got all-wheel drive but it's still struggling a bit. Yeah, pushing through those trees, it was struggling a little bit. It actually went through the second section pretty nicely. I kind of know how to hit that bit now, more towards the left. Considering how light this thing is, light things usually struggle with the trees, so it did alright. And yeah, as I drove up here now, I mean, I have kind of beached it on the fuel tanks, but I was able to get off there, and that is a pretty sharp point of the mountain. Most stuff does beach there, so I can't really knock it for that. It actually does pretty nice in the mountains, I'll show you soon. As for cargo, again, because I can't have a trailer, I had to bring the Dolphin quickly. I only brought the 2-slot trailer because I just know with a 4-slot ramped flatbed that this thing just, it hasn't, again, got the weight or the grip to really pull that along this road. It'd probably be fine, but I know, like, the muddy bit I'm going to cut across in a minute would just absolutely have no chance whatsoever. At least with this there was yeah, a little glimmer of hope. I've got the muds on at the minute though, which are going to be better for when I cut across the mud in a minute, but obviously going along this road, because it's an icy road, I'm slipping over all over the place. It does understeer quite a bit, especially like on those icy roads, because it's got 2 lots of tyres at the back. When you turn the steering, it's got to overcome those just staying planted in the direction they're going, so it happens a little bit with the Yar as well. Like, it is just kind of a characteristic of these sort of trucks, with the actual trucks that are 6-wheel drive and that. I think they have a little bit of a longer nose to them between the rear wheels and the front, so it kind of helps a bit, and a bit more weight to plant the front end in and grip. But yeah, with these little Scouts like this and the Yar, they do seem to suffer with that a bit, like they can understeer. Cutting across here though, I wouldn't go as far as to say it impressed me, because it is pretty slow going over here. However, it didn't actually disappoint me. I thought it was going to get stuck, you know, back there a bit more really. Once I actually dropped it into low, it was doing pretty nicely. And I have found I will be using the SnowRunner gearbox like pretty soon in this game. I will, to be honest though, as you can see, like this thing wheel spins quite a lot, even when I put it into auto, because it's got all-wheel drive and diff locks. I tend to find auto is a bit like high-low, as long as it's got all-wheel drive and diff locks always on. Yeah, I tend to find, even when I had the 3 options of the low ranges, when I put it into high-low, it tends to wheel spin more than add extra speed. Like maybe if you're going through medium to shallow terrain, you'd feel the benefit of high-low versus medium-low, but in situations like this, it's just, yeah, it's not planted enough that it can really apply that power. So it's sort of one of them, slowly but surely getting around there. I mean, it did get across there, so that's better than nothing. But if I was to ask the question, would I go round recovering empty trailers with this? Probably not. See, situations like that, as soon as I hit that, what is classed as like deep water there or something, it just immediately reduces it to like a couple of miles an hour. And yeah, I'm not sure if they're kind of erring on the side of making it a pretty weak truck so they get less backlash. Because again, like I said, they've opened themselves up to just everybody's going to have an opinion on it, and probably not a good one because they've added extra paid content. My whole thing with it is, I'm certainly not like defending it. I don't want them to make it a habit or anything, but I have also got to, like, when I kind of come to a decision, I'm not saying I'm always right, but I at least weigh up all options and then kind of come to a decision based on my experiences with stuff like Black Ops that feel like they've taken mechanics out of the game and then they sell them back to you later. Like I said with this, I wish it was more powerful and everything, but I'm glad they haven't gone down the route of, say, like if you buy this you get some special set of tyres with it, or you get a whole new set of engines that other trucks can't have, or a whole new set of gearboxes, and then you kind of have to buy this to have that for the rest of your trucks. I don't like sort of sneaky business practices like that, and that's where games like Black Ops and stuff feel like when they add a gun, I don't know, it's like there wasn't a lot in the game to begin with, and you sort of feel like you probably had that in the original game and then just took it out and now you're trying to sell it back to me. In defence of this, I don't really feel like it's a bit of an odd one if it's a cash grab. As I've said, it's not a very well executed cash grab because the truck isn't that good, and my advice would be don't buy it, it's not really worth it. Like, it's fun for 5 minutes, it certainly does look cool, but yeah, as far as like gameplay goes, you're just going to end up going this speed everywhere and it'll start to wear thin and you'll just think, ah, sod it, I'll go and get a better truck. So yeah, they haven't gone mad with it, is what I'm saying. Like, I think it is too expensive though, certainly for what it is. It'd be better if it was like £1.69 or something. Yeah, overall, like, I don't know if this was ever intended to be part of the like the season pass or not, or if they did literally come up with it extra on top of that. Like I said, I mean, if it's going to be one truck every few months that's a DLC, I can live with it overall. Again, I'm not for it, I'm not going to promote it or anything like that, but compared to what I have seen and what usually is standard business practice in the industry, like, I don't think they have sort of gone mad with this one. And again, they've not tried to sell me like somebody was saying, and I agree at first, it would be cool if they added like a half-track option to this. Would be pretty damn cool, but then at the same time, if it had the half-track option and it was then the only truck in the game that had the half-track option, I would feel a lot more strongly about, like, they shouldn't make that then a, you know, a paywall DLC thing that you have to pay extra to get. Like, the only way I'd kind of be happy if they made this a half-track is if they then offered it for free as an option on at least the Yar 87. I mean, overall, I think tracks just in the game for getting this thing would be a good thing. I hope they add tracks at some point. I'm surprised they haven't aimed for doing that sort of thing sooner, because, yeah, there's a lot of vehicles in real life that are either like tanks, like just fully tracked, or half tracks to go around this sort of terrain, so it's definitely an option. But yeah, I suppose in the long run, I'm glad they didn't just add it onto this, because then I don't think that would be fair. You kind of limit in a lot of the audience from it. So yeah, I at least appreciate that they've not tried to go that sneaky about it or anything. And as somebody said as well, and it's true, this is essentially like a collector's item. It's sort of to get it if you want it and you like the look of it and you just want to have every vehicle. But again, as I've said, for anyone who can't get it or doesn't want to get it, not only I don't blame you, but you're honestly not missing out on anything. Like, it doesn't add any more dimension to the game or anything like that. Like, I would say the Yar easily performs, generally speaking, as well as this. There's a shed load of trucks that perform better than this, and they can also have trailers and various different options. The F750, for example, I mean, that's to put it in to perspective. If they gave us this as the free truck and then sold us the F750 that's got all those cool options and all the rest of it, I'd be like, nah, that's a little bit cheeky and a little bit shit. The fact that this is the paid truck and we all just got, I mean, I know you probably have to have the season pass, but season pass is like post-launch content, so I can understand that, it's DLC and stuff. Yeah, the Ford F750 is like way better than it. In fact, I just read recently in the comments, someone said, which is true, like the Ford F750 can go faster than this through various terrain, and that's not even got mud tyres, this thing has. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping that they do buff it at some point, because I still don't think, like, what I would like it to be, as I said, is like a mini Tayga. It'd be pretty cool. And then fair enough, if it can't have any trailers, like, well, I mean, I'm gonna have to live with it either way because it ain't got trailers. But yeah, the fact that it hasn't got trailers and is pretty slow is it doesn't really fill a niche that, I don't know, there wasn't really a niche to be filled with slow and unusable. But yeah, the F750 like is just a better truck than this all over. Just, I think it is cooler, it's got way more options, all the rest of it. So in that respect, like, I feel pretty confident in saying if this was EA in charge of this or something, yeah, this thing would now be about 10 quid. It'd be a God mode truck, and you'd get loads of options with it that you can add to other trucks that, yeah, like I said, they're kind of selling you the features that should have been in the game via DLC, and I don't like that, and these haven't done that, so that's why I'm not really pissed off about this. But yeah, I'm not, I don't know, I'm not like, yay, paid DLC. No one ever is. That's why I don't work for like a company like EA. They'd sack me, because I'll be like, just give them the fucking truck. You're all driving around in fucking sports cars and yachts, like, just get over it, let them have a goddamn truck. And that's why they'd be like, yep, and we have to let you go, sir. Gonna have to get a money-hungry bastard in here. I have to say though, up in the mountains, it does actually handle pretty nicely. That's one of the few places I actually enjoyed this. It does pretty well on the nose test there as well. And even going up here, I mean, yeah, clipped the fuel tank, but it was enough to get me over there. Apologies, there's a little double glitch. It's really not liking it. To be honest, I already recorded all this, about 40 minutes worth, and then for some reason it come up and said, yep, there's something wrong, and it lost all my recording. So this is like my second attempt at voicing it through, which I don't really mind, but then I kind of lose track of what I've said and what I've not said, so apologies in advance if I repeat anything. Going up here though, the tipping test, it is actually pretty decent as far as tipping goes. It's more in the range of like a Tatra, and I was pretty happy with how it made it back to its wheels there. Like, yeah, the Tatran, like, the weight's very low down in the Tatran. Chances are, if you roll on your roof in the Tatran, as long as you've got some momentum, it'll get back to its wheels. This is close. I wouldn't say it's quite as great at doing it as that, but yeah, it is pretty good for not rolling. There's definitely, like, the wheels and the chassis and the axles and that feel like where a good 80-90% of the weight is or something. There's definitely not really any weight up top, which that's nice. That's like a good characteristic about it. I'm actually surprised it did tip there, to be honest, but it did. I did kind of skid over to the left a bit and try and swing it back, but again, though, rolling over, got back to its wheels. And as I've said before, there's only so many times you can roll back to your wheels before... Yeah, it's beyond luck. It's the characteristics of the truck, really. But as far as going up here, it goes up here very nicely, pretty comfortably. The thing is with the top of these mountains is the snow is quite often just shallow, like that's what the game kind of counts it as. And yeah, if it drove like this pretty much everywhere, forgetting really deep mud or whatever, it'd be nice, but for some reason, anything above shallow, and it just doesn't like it just reverts to this automatic, like, yeah, 2 mile an hour. But you see, when I'm actually sticking to the mountain tops, it's going along not only pretty nicely, but because of the weight characteristics, I didn't actually go flying off left or right down the mountain. But then, yeah, you hit that little patch of snow, and it just slows down. I think the main thing, like, I think it's beyond simulation, for example. It's slower than it should be, but it breaks my immersion in the game. Like, sometimes you can just zone out in this game, you're flying around doing your thing, and next thing you know, 3 hours have gone. When you're driving along in this and then you suddenly hit a patch of mud or snow and it goes 2 mile an hour, you just suddenly snap out of that and you start looking around like, oh yeah, you know, have I got any coffee left, or like look at my phone, is there any messages, or just things that it's like it snaps you out of being engrossed in the game and you've got time to just get bored almost, I suppose, which is why I wouldn't want to drive this vehicle loads and loads. I'm certainly like been having my mad 5 minutes with it the last couple of days because it is new, but yeah, it's in danger of like letting boredom creep in. I suppose that's one thing I didn't really like with that Star in the Sky mission on Amandra. I honestly don't think that mission was difficult, it was just awkward and tedious. It was essentially like 3 or 4 times driving from the airport to the lake, and then driving back very slowly and all the rest of it. Like, yeah, and boredom was creeping in during that mission. Whereas generally speaking in this game, not even just this game, I can play any bloody game. Like, to be honest, I wouldn't mind mixing and matching a couple of games. I still definitely enjoying this game at the minute, so I want to stick to mostly this, but yeah, I can play any game and have a laugh, have fun, and it isn't long before I think a lot of people are like this, where you're pushing the mechanics of any game, whether it's a shooting game or a racing game or a physics terrain game. Yeah, once you've kind of experienced the basics, you generally try and push your luck of what you can get away with. So I can always keep myself entertained in this game, but this is where this just, yeah, if I want to head somewhere, it's not quite snappy enough for me. I mean, going to the quarry, I brought this, again, a 2-slot trailer. There's just no point in bringing a 4-slot. So, yeah, it's crawling there, it's getting there, but I mean, you've seen plenty of trucks go through here. A lot of stuff just goes so much faster that it's like, why would I choose this? And especially that I can't actually tow any trailers, whether it was scout trailers or this trailer. Like, say one possible option then, because it is actually dragging this along. Could I use it to nip round maps, collecting empty trailers? And I could, but I wouldn't really. It certainly wouldn't be anywhere high on my list to do so, because if I brought a Taiga instead, for example, not only would I be more planted in the ground, I'd be tearing through the terrain quicker, but I could also tow a trailer and winch a trailer, whereas this thing, yeah, you're just limited to... I've now used my winch up as well. Going down there, though, it did alright. The trailer went for a bit of a lap. I thought it was about to land on my head like a little hat, but it didn't. Cutting through here, you can see where I've been through here earlier. That's why that other trailer was just abandoned there. I'm going to go... I have no choice. I can't put a concrete slab in this trailer. However, later on in the game, I did actually... Or later on in the night when I was filming this, I did actually try with a concrete slab, and it's just, like, it can't do it really at all. So this was my first attempt. That's how not confident I was that it would struggle with the concrete slab. I didn't even attempt to get that footage first. I just went for an empty trailer because, as you can see, it's already... It's not necessarily just struggling, like, as far as power goes, but it also wheel spins quite a lot if you're putting it under any kind of load. So, yeah, I believe it does need more weight to it, and I find that in this game in general. Like, the heavier trucks are pretty planted and make a lot of sense, but light trucks in this game, I don't think they're very realistic, like, in real life. even small trucks like this have a hell of a lot of weight to them and plant themselves in the ground. I mean, going up here though, I've got the SnowRunner gearbox. I'm in the high-low and it's doing alright at the minute. I wouldn't particularly say it's really any faster. You can say I'm almost going to the point of stopping there, so I don't think medium-low would be much different either. But it did get up there, slowly but surely. But again, I suppose it is an unloaded trailer. Like, having a loaded concrete slab in that trailer would make a hell of a lot of difference. I can call it now for a pretty much guaranteed fact. It wouldn't make it up there if I had a concrete slab. It wouldn't even barely get halfway up the hill before it'd just start wheel spinning. I don't think power or stalling or whatever would be the issue. It'd just wheel spin. You see, just cutting across that road sideways, you dig into the mud and it's not too happy about it. So next up though, I'm on Lake Coved, and going across the ice, that's one thing it definitely does do pretty nice. This, I assume, because it's got the 6 wheels and it spreads the weight out so much, and the fact this thing isn't really heavy to begin with. Yeah, it actually cuts all the way along here pretty well. I was trying to think though, in a Mandra, I mean, I don't think there's that many places where you would need a truck to be able to drive along the ice. It's cool that it can do this. I'll be trying it at some point on probably the Battle on the Ice contest, but I know this isn't going to set any records. I think if anything, the F750, the Warthog, with the big wide muds on, the TUZ16, the Lodestar, the Car Marshall, those sort of things do pretty well. But yeah, this just hasn't got enough speed to it really. Not enough power. Like I said, even for the top engine, it's only B+, I think, but if you look at the actual bars that go up on the power, it's only about halfway, so there's certainly a lot of room for improvement as far as that goes. And that's sort of the shame bit, where I hit there, and it just, as soon as you touch that snow, it holds you back a hell of a lot. More than it should. Like I said, it feels beyond realistic, like it's something like this I'm pretty sure would just motor through. And especially as like the top engine is some overhauled custom engine, it's not like an old 1950s pickup diesel engine in it, it's some 5.2 litre, yeah, custom raw unadulterated power engine apparently, but it never really applies it that way. Right now, there's a little bit of messing around, but I was trying out if I could do the Jeff Special. Yeah, turn all-wheel drive off when I'm in 6th gear, stick it in high range, and because there is practically no friction on all this ice, it actually just about was able to, yeah, get in the Jeff Special Light, I suppose, really. But yeah, it did it. I certainly wouldn't say it's going to be usable on most roads and stuff. It's a bit odd as well with the all-wheel drive, that it basically disconnects the rears and it's only powered from the front. You would assume if it was going to disconnect it, it'd leave the 2 rears powered. It doesn't really bother me, if I'm honest, because I'm going to leave it in all-wheel drive pretty much permanently anyway, but it's a bit odd. Yeah, I've turned all-wheel drive off then. Again though, stuck it in the Jeff Special, which at that point, like when it's actually allowed to build up speed going down that runway, it has got a pretty nice healthy speed to it, but if you look like when I first got to that runway, I ran over just one little patch of snow and it immediately stops you. And then now, once I've landed in the water, because it's not very heavy, it's not planting itself like, I mean the water's barely above sort of the wheel arches, but yeah, already it's taking so much of the weight out of the truck. I mean, that's probably where you can tell the weight's low down. So by the time the axles are underwater, it's almost like they're trying to float, or the wheels are trying to float, like there's no weight up top to keep it planted, even when it's like only halfway in the water. So as far as the snorkel goes, there isn't really any point. You're probably best off just keeping the original on and saving your money, because yeah, I can't ever find a situation where you're going to get deep enough. Yeah, that's what she said. I mean, of course, while it was there, I had to do the slippery flying dolphin test. Nailed it pretty well that time. I mean, I don't know how much how much is to be learned from this, but it's nice to know. Nailed the suspension. I believe it did the fuel as well. Give it a good old smack again. I think I burst 2 tyres on it at that time. Looking from where I hit, I might have burst the rear lefts. But yeah, I mean, as you can see, it floats pretty well, but it's not necessarily a handy characteristic. I mean, this is why you get yourself a goddamn horse of a vehicle. Has a little tug on the winch as he's going across, saves the dolphin. See? Goddamn professional. He's always ready. So I'll send him in to grab this. So another thing that indicates, though, it's pretty light. And it's barely light, there's just no resistance whatever, especially that it's floating. It's pretty easy to pull out of there. It's funny though, that's where the step toe, it feels like a really light truck and sort of is a light truck, but that doesn't float, and that was one I expected to. See, there though, reversing out the water, I started pushing on the loaf, and I couldn't even push the loaf out the way, and I kind of already knew what was going to happen, but I switched to the loaf, and I mean, look at him. He's goddamn professional. Like, absolutely no trouble reversing and shoving that thing out the way. So the loaf is a lot more planted, a lot more urgent. Like yesterday I was messing around on a few different snow trails, and I was using the loaf and the Apache, and the loaf was absolutely nailing along like the snowy roads and all sorts quicker than the Apache. Bit of a place to park the loaf. I was like, speak to me, loaf. Just took a full dolphin. Not many trucks can take a full dolphin and walk away, but we are dealing with a goddamn horse of a vehicle, so he's alright. He's a bit lowered. Flatbread, but we're good. Yeah, I mean, driving this thing along here, just, yeah, through the water, not good at all. However, up this hill, it was actually doing pretty nicely. Like, if it went like that through just most terrains, I'd be pretty happy with it. So at this point, I was like, it's looking pretty nice. I'll take it up over to the left here, which, if any of you see my Yar 87 review, I took that up and around over here. Got a bit unlucky there, I did kind of bounce in a bit quick, but yeah, I believe the Yar just handled a lot better over here. It seemed to be a bit more planted, even though like the Yar doesn't seem to weigh a lot really anyway, which sort of makes sense because it appears to be like it's designed like that in real life. This thing is just a classic old school American pickup. I'd be willing to bet, yeah, lightness wasn't high on the list of things to be achieved. See, it's just not planted enough to claw its way up those rocks. Tried to give it a little sneaky winch to help me along the way, but yeah, and I am back on the chained at the minute, so it's kind of the best chance it's going to have. It's going, like, on that smooth bit of rock it was fine, but there's just a little ledge up front, and because it's not planted enough yet, it didn't have the grip to just bump up that last little bit. So anyway, send it back to the garage. Yeah, that's it around the course. I mean, obviously it's for real money. I still stand pretty firmly on, I wouldn't bother getting it unless you play this game a hell of a lot and you really like the look of it and you're fine travelling along at 2 miles an hour, and yeah, then maybe. But other than that, like, for people who are disappointed or pissed off that it's only behind like a paywall thing, I fully understand, but you're just not missing a lot. It doesn't really fill any niche or area of the game that really needed. Like, yeah, because it can't have trailers, it's not that useful for, say, scouting or running fuel to another truck. And yeah, because it's not rapid or it's not very fun and exciting scurrying along the terrain, it doesn't really fill that role very well either. I mean, as real in-game money, sorry, it's about 40 grand to buy it stock. It's about 70 grand when I've got it fully upgraded, but you get one of them for free. I mean, in quotations, obviously once you buy the DLC you get one of them for free. After that though, you've got to pay for them. So yeah, I mean, that's my general feeling on it overall. I bought it generally because I wanted to have a play around with it and review it and let you guys know what the situation is. But yeah, I mean, I'm fingers crossed it gets a bit of a buff. Like I said, I'm not sure if they kind of aimed low with this one, with the intention of maybe buffing it after the controversy dies down a bit, kind of the opposite of what they did with the Marshall, where they ended up nerfing that. But that's about it though. These are just the last couple of clips of a few bits and bobs I've been doing tonight that don't really fit in with the review, but I like that the roof rack's got all lights around it. I mean, that's what it looks like with the roof rack on. It's a pretty decently sized roof rack. The only thing I don't really get is that top roof rack is only 150 points. You can see how slow it makes the vehicle as well, even at top speed. I'm surprised it's only 150 points, considering, like, both roof racks together I think are 300 points, which the Loaf's got that, and yeah, those are the Taz and the Warthog, they've both got 500 point van bodies. Trucks can have maintenance trailers and van repair bodies, so there's just not a whole lot of it doesn't even work well as that as like a mobile repair vehicle, because you may as well send in the Warthog. The Warthog's got more power, more urgency to it, faster still through terrain, and more repair points and everything. I was just trying, because obviously it floats pretty well in water. I brought the roof racks to see if that weighed it down, and it didn't really. So I put a loaf on the roof, and yeah, weighed it down for a little bit, but I soon tipped over. Of course, went to try and fly it. Why not? You never know. Pretty good little bounce from the Dolphin, if I do say so myself. It's funny though, as I jump off the cliff, you can see, like, even though this thing doesn't weigh a lot, as soon as my Dolphin leaves the cliff, the, like, mechanics of the game absolutely just pull this thing to the ground. Which is just something random I notice. I mean, every now and then, this is why I fuck around and do stuff like this, because you never know. I mean, flying around having a pretty good time. I did notice as well, it's funny how it generally, always the nose was pointing forward. I know it was swinging sideways a bit, but it never just did a loop, and you see, as soon as I drop off the cliff, it absolutely, not just my Dolphin dropping, but it really does yank that crane down, and it suddenly takes over. And as a last one, I mean, I do like, by chance, that it happens to fit very snugly in the sideboard. And I could have both roof racks on now, but again, I mean, it's only, because there's only 300 points, it's not making me want to take it over anything else. I mean, really, it should have, like, that top roof rack should be more like 300. And, yeah, the one in the pickup chassis, 150, 200, at least you'd be up, like, 450, 500 repair points in total. But as you can see, I mean, this is what I may be using it for, as and when I'm out and about. It's just quicker, better, easier, faster, more fun. Stick it in the back of a sideboard and, yeah, have fun with the Dolphin. Although, as I said, I'd just stick a loaf in there. The loaf weighs less hassle. The loaf can reverse out of the sideboard on its own. This thing was kind of stuck in there, really. It could probably winch itself out, but yeah, I mean, I can knock trees down while I'm in the Dolphin. What's not to love? As far as it goes though, that's about it for this vehicle. As I said, it's a shame it is only behind a paywall, but don't be disappointed for those that can't or don't want to get it, because yeah, you're really not missing out on anything. The F750 is a lot better, the Warthog's more fun, there's still plenty of other DLC to come, so just, yeah, like, don't let it bother you, don't let it ruin your enjoyment of the game, because it's not good enough to be worrying like that. That's about it for today though. I hope that helps, I hope you enjoyed, thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.